Back, everybody, on Open Line. Halfway through now. We appreciate all the calls. And as I promised, we will get right back to your calls with our guests listening in. Kevin is up next. Hi, Kevin. Kevin, go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
A couple of things that come into the media when they happen, actions by the governor or legislature, and then they're lost. The big example that I think sticks out a year ago, the Beacon Foundation, a Nashville-based, very conservative organization, shined a spotlight on the, I don't know the name of the program, TANF, that had a $700 million surplus. The money should have been going out to families and individuals that were financially challenged. A year later, that chunk of money has grown up to $740 million. What have they done? Nothing. Okay? In addition to that, we learned that the governor likes having all that money sloshing around because he wants to save it for a rainy day. Now, that is outright fatuous, disseminating, spinning the facts. If anybody doesn't think we're in a rainy day right now, then they haven't been paying attention to COVID and all the associated problems. So I believe that the legislature and the governor flat out just don't care. They don't care about education and a variety of other things, where it could be argued that their view is, well, those people, whoever they are, who need help, we're not going to give them any help. So I think it's a crime. The statistics, one of you might know, after 5 years, what is the percentage of new teachers that had started teaching 5 years previously that are gone and have quit teaching? It's an astoundingly high percentage. Every year I've been watching Nashville schools. On the first day of school, they're still looking to hire anywhere from 100 to 150 teachers. Yeah. I mean, it is atrocious. So you guys have a lot more background and knowledge of things than I do, but I just think more publicity needs to be brought to bear on the legislative process. And yes, the governor, we shouldn't let him wiggle out of his responsibility to do more than just be a mouthpiece for the knuckle-dragging Republicans. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that very much. Your response, guys.
Well, I would say first, Kevin, thank you for being so plugged in and keeping up with what's happening in our state, particularly around funding for our schools and our communities who need it the most. I don't know the specific statistic that he's asking about in terms of the turnover in the last 5 years. What I can tell you is that 1 in 5 Tennessee teachers is in their first 2 years. And as someone who has been an educator for 20 years, I can tell you that I get better every single year. Experience matters. And so one of the things that we have to continually push for is professional compensation for Tennessee's educators. We know that we're paid significantly lower than professionals who have similar training, and we need the best and brightest to get into our classrooms and stay in our classrooms because that's what's best for our kids. I will say that we have a number of public education friendly legislators, and then there are some who I think just aren't as educated about the funding issues. They may not understand. And so I think that we have a job. Not only do I have a job as an educator and as the president of the Tennessee Education Association, but we have a job as citizens to make sure that our legislators are listening to us when we say our public schools are being starved. You can do more. You can do better. Do it now.
All right, let's continue on. I want to go to line 4. Melanie is up next. Hi, Melanie. Welcome to Open Line.
Hi, yes, thank you. I've heard that the first stimulus money that was given out to schools has not been used, or at least not all of it has been used, and the Republicans are kind of fighting President Biden over not sending out more because it hasn't all been used. Is that true? And who is responsible for metering out the stimulus money to the schools. And before I get off, one other thing I'd like to say is I think that grammar needs to be looked at a little bit more closely in schools. I hear so many people when they're speaking, they'll say I've seen or I've seen instead of I've seen. And the other day there was a guest on one of our shows that was from Vanderbilt, and she said, I seen. And this was a professor. So anyway, back to the stimulus. I'd like to hear on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. I'm surprised Beth didn't jump in being a high school English teacher. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about the stimulus money, and that'll lead into some COVID-related questions I have, but go ahead.
Yeah, let me say, the short answer is the state is in charge, and so that's up to the governor to kind of dish out the money. And there was a study done that said that about half of the COVID money, the first round, had not been spent. I think some of that is being done now, but there are people in Congress who are not fighting Biden, but they just want to fight Biden because Republicans and Democrats. But the responsibility in Tennessee falls on Governor Lee, who has been slow to disseminate this money. And I think Beth can tell you that teachers in schools could absolutely use the money. It's just not getting out there fast enough. And so, the legislature under the previous governor, took some action to force him to do things related to Medicaid. This legislature might want to, encourage this governor to get money to their local schools. Each legislator represents a community of schools, and they could use the money. So, like Beth, I'm hopeful the legislature will take some steps to make the stimulus package work for our schools.
And Beth, since we're talking about stimulus money and the pandemic, we are now moving into a new phase where finally teachers are going to be able to get vaccines, correct?
Yes. Starting on Monday, the state moves into phase 1B, and Tennessee's educators will be able to, if they've not already received the vaccine, they'll be able to schedule their vaccine.
Which is obviously a welcome sign. So when do you think most teachers will actually finally feel comfortable back in the classroom with their students?
Oh, that's a loaded question, Rhori. I can say this, getting access to the vaccine is a critical first step in establishing trust among educators that it is safe to be back and providing in-person instruction. But I think one of the things that we cannot overlook is whether or not everyone's been vaccinated. If we are in buildings, and even after they're vaccinated, we need to make sure that we are continuing to do all of the mitigation measures possible. Social distancing, cleaning, all mask wearing, all of those things need to continue to happen. And here's another place where funding is going to be critical.
Yeah. Okay. I want to bring something up that maybe even Luttrell talked about, saying that teachers today are also kind of juggling being social workers. And your push for not only nurses in every school, but a counselor in every school. And we're not just talking about the back when I was in school, the guidance counselor that talked about, how to apply for college, but a real counselor. Why do we need that? And a lot of people would ask, how did we get here? What is wrong culturally that the students need this kind of help, then why aren't they getting it at home? Again, a loaded question, I know. Either of you can answer.
Yeah, so we absolutely do see increased mental health needs in our schools. We absolutely need counselors who are not using their time to administer tests and organize testing. Right. What we need are counselors who are trained in providing actual mental health services to work with our students who have a variety of issues, and it stems from housing insecurity or food insecurity or trauma that they've experienced. One of the things that we have to recognize is that, I'm a high school English teacher. If I have 32 kids in my class, there might be classes where I would have 3 or 4 students who had experienced significant trauma in their lives, right, which has a definite impact on their learning. But we're talking about coming out of a global pandemic.
Right.
Every single one of our students is going to have an adverse childhood experience. They're all going to be experiencing trauma that needs to be addressed. We need counselors more than ever before.
Yeah, and maybe things haven't really changed much. It's just that we are recognizing the issue a little more. When I think back to when I was in elementary school, it just wasn't talked about as much. The issue wasn't brought out in the daylight, so to speak. Do you agree, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about, like you said, when I was in school, you went to school, maybe you had a counselor who helped you out with scheduling, and there were definitely issues. There were bullying issues. There was trauma at home. There were people whose parents were, divorced or, had other problems. And so those issues were there. We do see, rising income inequality, and that definitely plays a role in terms of the number of people who have mental health needs and adverse childhood experience needs, and could use a counselor.
Sure. All right, we're going to take another break. Got a couple of calls lined up. We appreciate it, everybody. Stay with us. Open Line rolls on a Thursday night.